Welcome to another episode of Put Me in Coach on episode 69, Diamondbacks versus Reds, game one. Lineup of today, Jordan Lawlar is back from the IL playing center field, so it's good to see him to come back. Lou James Grover playing DH, and Ryan Wolfsman playing left field. And the rest is the same and stuff. And then, fortunately enough, in the ninth inning, bottom of the ninth, uh, Jordan Lawlar went to play left field because he was playing center field, and then he went to left field overall and stuff. And then Jorge Barosa came in to play center field, taking Ryan Wolfman out of the game. And that's pretty much of that and stuff. Looking of who got base hits here and there and stuff, I would say 50-50 and stuff. We kind of struggled a little bit, but fortunately enough, we still got the win overall and stuff. But there's sometimes we came clutch, but it just didn't really depends of we were scoring a lot and stuff. There was a lot of getting hit by pitch, walks. Those are good things here and there, but it's just they're not like very contact base hits and stuff. There's few, but there's just a little bit of few. Jordan Lawlar went 2 for 4, by the way. Just good sign to have a comeback. Just getting off the IL and stuff. So it's good to see him, having that confidence he had. I kind of knew there was something a little bit to Lawlar a little bit and stuff, especially of this year. It's crazy enough of he, because again, back then of enough when he came in to be all on the IL and stuff, that was the same day he hit his first career home run and stuff, and getting hit by pitch to injured his hand and stuff, and now he is back on the lineup today and stuff. So it's a little bit crazy of that, and that was the series when we had game 4 against the Braves and stuff, and we swept. We split the series with the Braves and stuff, and that was only maybe the third series we ever played against team and stuff. So it's kind of crazy of how long he's been out for this time and stuff. So yeah, it's just kind of crazy of that and stuff. And also that was the game that when the Braves won 17-2 in that game and stuff. So I have that game very locked in my memory so much because, first of all, again, when Jordan Lawlar hit his first career home run, I was in the bathroom, taking number 2. Um, um, that's just what happened. I shouldn't, because I'm seeing history of a young kid to see his first career home run, and I totally missed it by taking a dump. Um, so I regret to see that of that, but yeah, it's just a long time just to see him and stuff. And honestly enough, he did really good, and you can show me why of enough of he did good of it and stuff. So I think that's a pretty huge thing on offense overall and stuff. Because again, I was not really huge of Jordan Lawlar fan a little bit and stuff because he was struggling last year, and he keeps going back with the minor leagues and the Diamondbacks a lot and stuff. So I don't know. I think it was just so hard for Lawlar at the time because he was mostly for shortstop, and Perdomo was shortstop at the time from last year, and especially enough of last year and stuff. Perdomo had a high like streak of enough from last year and stuff. Probably one of the best shortstop in MLB from last year and stuff. Like, his numbers were absolutely insane. He came clutch every single time for the Diamondbacks needed for him and stuff. Fortunately, he was struggling. He only got one base hit today, but I'm not gonna like go crazy talk about Perdomo so much and stuff. But he had a great year from last year and stuff, and clearly of enough of he was in the conversation to be a MVP from last year. Okay, he voted for getting third place. Third place. You don't really see that much of enough for the Diamondbacks to win MVP. Okay, the Diamondbacks never won an MVP in their career. Okay, and so it's kind of crazy to think about that, and so because there's two other teams also never won a MVP before, but the rest have, and stuff. And the other two teams never done it was the Mets and stuff, and the Tampa Bay Rays and stuff. And the Rays are the same year as the Diamondbacks in '98 and stuff. So it's crazy to think about that of enough of those. They're the only three teams never had a one player to win MVP, and this is probably because again I don't know because I don't know about like Randy Johnson could get MVP. I know he won some lot or like Cy Youngs and stuff. I'm surprised of like Luis Gonzalez never won it and stuff. That probably makes sense enough of why Barry Bonds got it because he had like the most record home run in that year and stuff. Obviously 73 home runs in one season. That's it's the steroids type of situation and stuff, but it's still insane enough of to get to that range of the number and stuff. So now I kind of see that enough of like why did like Luis Gonzalez never won one and stuff like because the Diamondbacks were so dominant team in 2001 and the reason why they won the World Series because they were that good and stuff. Beating the New York Yankees in Game 7 and stuff is huge and stuff. Not just enough of beating them, came back in the 9th inning, tied the game up, and then won it with the walk-off by Luis Gonzalez. It's kind of crazy to think about that and stuff. So fortunately of enough of like because I can't really remember of enough so much because I thinking even enough for Paul Goldschmidt being so long for the Diamondbacks and stuff. He is getting much closer and closer. I thinking he getting like third place in the conversation, getting second place in the conversation. I think the most closest time enough of Paul Goldschmidt totally almost very, very close enough to win a MVP was in 2017 when enough of the Diamondbacks were in the playoffs and stuff, and the person got the MVP was Giancarlo Stanton when he was on the Miami Marlins and stuff, and the Marlins were not even in the playoffs. So it's so crazy to think about that and stuff, and to me of enough it's just so crazy of enough of how close Paul Goldschmidt enough. Fortunately enough, he won the MVP in 2022, but not with the Diamondbacks. It was with the Cardinals overall and stuff. So it's just kind of crazy, to think about that in some ways and stuff. So this is the most another closest time enough where we were very, very close to win a MVP and stuff. I think the closest is probably Paul Goldschmidt in 2017. But having of enough of how many players and stuff, like I get it, it's like probably the NL, not the AL and stuff, but having Perdomo in the conversation from last year, almost very close to winning MVP, is huge and stuff. And that's why you have enough. It's so hard for Lawlar to get in that conversation to be a good shortstop because a lot of people keep saying enough of like, Jordan Lawlar is going to be a great shortstop and stuff, and he's going to take over Perdomo's positions and stuff. Like, what are you talking about? Like, Perdomo is doing great and stuff. You're not going to replace him and stuff. And also, I haven't seen anything great about Lawlar at the time when he came up to the Diamondbacks. So, like, there's a times enough, like, I haven't seen that and stuff. But here's the other thing. Like, I get it. Perdomo's great and stuff, because another thing I was going to say about there's two other people were in the conversation, and one of them actually won the MVP, by the way, of enough of his Shohei Ohtani, because he won number one MVP and stuff. Number two plays enough of below of Perdomo and stuff was Kyle Schwarber of enough of, if you really think about that, that's crazy just to think about that. Enough of, those are the two biggest power hitters and stuff, and not a person hits so much home runs and stuff is in that conversation. It's just mind-blowing in my head every single time I think about it and stuff. That's how close he was, so. But I think even enough of now, because, Jordan Lawlar kind of grew on me a little bit of this beginning of the spring training time for 2026 and stuff. So I thinking what happened is Ravello gave him more of a chance to play more games and stuff, so he put him in the outfield and stuff. And fortunately enough, he also did really great today on defense as well with a great catch and stuff. So he can play infield and outfield, showing enough of he's a team player and stuff. That's what I want to see from Jordan Lawlar for so many times and stuff. He is getting to the base, hustling every single time and stuff. Like, that's what you gotta to do to, put yourself out there of enough of, if you want to work hard and show it and stuff. This is the type of situation I want to see. If you showed that to me of enough, I'll give you a thumbs up every single time and stuff. Like, I want to see dedication to the team and stuff, and Jordan Lawlar has been doing that ever since till the time in spring training and stuff, and I was really looking forward to it to enough of this season and stuff. And then he got hit by pitch and got injured, and now he's back, and you'll be more of enough of crazy, because I was still talking about Jordan Lawlar today because he was fantastic. And stuff, because I probably gave up, who won the MVP, so obviously, and stuff. So, so it is, honestly enough, it's so cool to see him back and stuff, and I'm super excited for more of him and stuff, because he's showing that and stuff. So it's just a bummer to see him, on the IL for so long, especially now getting hit by on the hand and stuff. It's so strange of it, but I guess now it's healed and it's ready to go and whatever and stuff. So I understand that I talk about Jordan Lawlar that long and stuff. Sorry about on the offense and stuff, but I think that's a huge big thing about just talking about how the Diamondbacks, back then and now and stuff. So it's good to see him having some confidence. Pitching wise enough, starting pitcher of the day, Eduardo Rodriguez today for 3 innings. Surprising enough, he went only for 3 innings. He only gave up 2 hits. That's actually pretty good. Struck out 3, walked 5, and gave up 2 runs. So he's 2-run Rodriguez today, by the way. It's not because I keep giving him the nickname overall and stuff. Sorry, I'm sniffing. Every time I sneeze and stuff, it just goes wrong, and I get a running nose. I hate it. So I think he did really good. Surprising enough, he got out of the inning, the game really early and stuff. I don't know what happened. Didn't look like he got injured or anything. I don't know. I don't know what the situation from Ravello at the time and stuff, but we might see that from just for tomorrow game overall and stuff. So I have no idea in a way. Hopefully he's good, because we want to have him to be healthy, because Rodriguez is the only person is doing good in the starting roster and stuff. Sorry. The Reds starting pitcher, Nick Lodolo. It's weird how to say that last name. He went 6 innings, gave up 5 hits, struck out 5, walked 1, and then gave up 2. So he also did pretty good, but just a little bit here and there and stuff. I wouldn't say he did great, but he did like pretty good overall and stuff. It's hard to put him up there with Rodriguez today and stuff because Rodriguez didn't go the much he can and stuff, so I can't really communicate with that so very well and stuff. And then the bullpen for the Diamondbacks, Ryan Thompson, Jonathan Liskia, Taylor Clark, Kevin Ginkel, and Paul Sewell at the end and stuff. And bullpen looking good, so that's a positive. Scoring right now of enough, I kind of took a couple things off, so I kind of lowered it down a little bit to talk about what's important to the game of the scoring. Neil Valley Marte hit a solo home run to make it 1-0 bottom of the second. It's crazy enough the Reds also have a Marte as well. Jeez. And then former Diamondbacks of Ingeno Suarez got a RBI single to make it 2-1 bottom of the third, and Arenado made error at third base to have the runner to score and stuff. So it's kind of crazy to have that. Lou James Grover hit a RBI single to tie the game up in top of the sixth, 2-2. Perdomo with a RBI field error on Blake Dune in the outfield to make it 3-2 in the top of the ninth. It's kind of crazy to think about that and stuff. And then, fortunately enough, I already said who won the MVP and stuff. This is the reason why he's huge. Jordan Lawlar coming huge with a 2 RBI single to make it 5-2. To top of the ninth, and that is the final score for the Diamondbacks, winning 5-2 today and stuff. Getting that, sweep thing when we did with the Marlins, that's gone. Okay, I'm glad enough of we're getting back to it and stuff. Again, we need to give a little advantage on the Reds because they're just not doing so well. And also, I found out enough of why the Reds are not doing good. Because their superstar is injured, and that's Ellie De La Cruz. So the Diamondbacks record is 35-34. They are one up over 500. That's a positive. Thank you. And stuff. So we just need to keep going up and stuff. So we just need to keep winning and stuff. So yeah. Progress. I just needed to see more in the batting and stuff. Like we did good today, but there was a lot of times we keep going on getting people on base, not really scoring that much. I get we did at the very end, but we cannot have that air of enough to get them have a chance to have a comeback and stuff. Like I get we won the game, but we cannot have that way enough that our opponents are getting that confidence because we don't want that and stuff. Like it's a good job enough of the bullpen did their job to not have them to score more runs than 2 and stuff. So that's huge and stuff. And our offense came clutch at the very end and stuff. But we want to see that in the middle of the game. I want to see the team to literally get like a run pretty much like 1 or 2 times in like an inning and stuff. Like every inning, if you can score and stuff, you're mostly going to win games very easily and stuff, and you're gonna give the opponents a very hard time and stuff. And that's what we wanted to do and stuff. Put some pressure on the opposite side and stuff. So I think that's the most biggest thing we got to do and stuff. I think pitching today did more great of a nub because Rodriguez did good. I was a little shaky with him a little bit here and there and stuff, but I think he found his way. And again, I don't know what's the reason why he got out very early of the game because he only went 3 innings and stuff, and that's it and stuff. So I would like to see more from him, but but we totally did not and stuff. So I cannot really say so much on Rodriguez today and stuff. But overall enough. I thinking the pitching is doing good, and hopefully they can progress with that more in this series and stuff. Like we might go for a sweep, we might, who knows, we might win the series overall if we win tomorrow. That's a big thing about that. MVP, I already talked to him about so much enough. First MVP for the podcast and stuff. Jordan Lawlar, it's who it is and stuff. I just thinking he came clutch at the very end with that 2 RBI single to make it 5-2 in the top of the ninth and stuff. He got 2 base hits and stuff. He stole twice and stuff. Those are the biggest things you got to do in games enough to get back in the and stuff, you know. So if I can see more Jordan Lawlar like this every single day, we might do more good than ever and stuff. And he probably can have more confidence to himself. It would make happy of enough for Ravello a lot and stuff, and Diamondbacks fans and as well and stuff. So, Jordan Lawlar, good job and stuff. And it is kind of crazy to think about of enough of for Gino Suarez. You know, obviously he was a former Diamondbacks with us and stuff, but it's crazy enough of former Venezuela teammate of Rodriguez and stuff, because, you know, Venezuela won the World Baseball Classic this year and stuff. So it's cool to see just like those typical former teammates and stuff. So it's kind of crazy to think about that and stuff. Hopefully we win tomorrow. I think Michael Sorka is going to pitch. I don't know who the Reds pitcher and stuff, but we'll find that out later and stuff. But overall, let's get the win tomorrow. Get some hype on Jordan Lawlar to have a comeback and stuff. You know, love to see the confidence and stuff. That's what we need. And stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Have a great day, and thank you for watching.